What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess, doing the mostest, Kiowa and Chee, and we are here with Dark Winds Season 3, Episode 3, titled Cheaty, which means ghost. The writer of this episode is two of them, Max Hurwitz and Billy Luther. The director is Michael Nankin, and the director of photography or cinematographer is Blake T. Evans. Now, this episode is not going to be long because we're kind of like leveling off pace wise, and we're really sitting into the actual cases and what's going on. So, in this episode, not much different. Like, there wasn't a lot of differences between this episode and last episodes as far as something for me to recap for you all on the podcast per se. But if you watch this episode, you will absolutely see that the lines of this case is going to collide. And that's basically what I've been thinking about since episodes 1 and definitely in last week's episode. So again, I'm just going to break this down, going over like everything that's going on with Bernie's case and what's happening with her. And then we're going to jump back into the whole Leaphorn Chee situation because it's getting dicey. But what I would truly like to know, y'all, as officers of the law, why does everybody insist on going off to places by themselves? I'm truly not understanding. Like, this entire episode, I was just like, are you kidding me? Okay, cool. Not gonna tell anybody we're going there, huh? Got it. Not gonna send no text messages. Not gonna call nobody and tell them where we're going. Cool. Like, the detective work and the instincts are getting real sloppy and real dangerous this episode. And so if you remember in episode 1, we open it up with Leaphorn off somewhere severely injured and seeing this thing that's been taunting him. And then we ended up going like back in the past 7 days. So it's like, no wonder we started off this season with you off somewhere in a ditch, bloody at night, because y'all you're not thinking, okay? You're not thinking with any type of frontal lobe information, neurons firing off in your brains. And so they're putting themselves in very dangerous situations. So let's talk about Bernie, right? Because Bernie is getting on my nerves bad. And I mean, bad. I genuinely want to know if she's truly out to seek justice or if she's trying to make a name for herself, because a lot of her decisions, especially in this episode, it's really giving arrogance, it's giving insolence, and it's giving dangerous. Everybody at her job keeps telling her to let this Spencer Ranch thing go. Like, he funnels so much money into this organization. You're moving without proof, and you're making very bold assumptions and accusations against somebody who has power and authority to appeal at least to the chief to get you fired. And that's like the very least. Like, even if they don't do anything to kill her, she could lose her job. And do you think she listens? No. And she's constantly putting herself in compromising situations as an agent of the law, and it's pissing me off. So what does she do this episode? So she is getting ready for work. So one of her coworkers, I do not know this lady's name, I forget all the time. They're roommates. And they're up, they're getting ready to go to work. And as she heads into her car, her gun that was taken in episode 1 is sitting on the seat. So she like, what? So she goes to work. She's bringing it up to the coworker who has a crush on her. And he's like, listen, you need to let this go. But, if you can't let go, let's talk about it over a proper date. So he's just trying to shoot his shot and just constantly telling her to drop this. So she's like, listen, I feel like it's in my bones. I'm not going to drop it, but sure, I'll also go out on a date with you. It is what it is. She still misses Chee in that whole situation. And so I appreciate her making some attempts to move on or at least have a distraction. Do I think she needs to be dating more people that she works with? Absolutely not. You need a distraction that has nothing to do with the law so that this case doesn't continue to get in the way. So she goes to her chief and she's like, hey, before you hear about this, I did do an inspection on that truck last night. And I know like you told me not to. I was only supposed to just get the weight and keep it moving, but I just feel really, really bad. And I would just love to apologize to Mr. Spencer and just let him know like it's no hard feelings. I'm really not trying to do anything, but I just feel like we got off on the wrong foot. So the chief is like, okay, cool. Seems like this was an innocent thing. We definitely get it and we understand. Like, you're just a really good cop. You like to do everything by the book. I don't see nothing wrong with you apologizing to Mr. Spencer. If he takes your apology, that's on him. If he don't, it is what it is. Don't let this shit happen again. So she goes down to Spencer Ranch and he's like, yeah, I heard. And she's like, I just want to make sure like we have a good working relationship and everything is cool. Like, we cool. So why you got your security riding shotgun? And I'm just like, girl, there's no subtlety to her line of questioning at all. And instantly you kind of see Spencer be like, well, we cross a bunch of different counties, we cross a bunch of different states. And some of the places that we go and some of the places that they stop is a little bit dangerous. Why wouldn't I have my security there? And she's like, okay, cool. Well, I also think that I got off on the wrong foot with Budge. Now, in the episode 2, where we first met him and he buried that man alive, I thought they said his name was Budge. Budge sounds the same. His name is Budge. And she was like, since I'm on my apology tour, I would also like to apologize to Budge too. Like, I just feel like there was some energy, there were some tensions, and we didn't leave things like, all settled. And Spencer was like, Budge ain't got no feelings. And if I hired security people with feelings and who got their feelings hurt about every encounter that they had, especially with the law, they probably wouldn't be my security at all. So he's like, I got work to do. I think you can find your way home. So she's like, oh, yeah, sure. Bernie, why she take her ass outside and she goes over to the area where they said that they collect the gases. And so she's like standing up on things. She's trying to look inside and everything like that. It's broad daylight. This little building, this little shed is not in some inconspicuous place. It's right smack in the middle of somewhere where anybody who works there can see. Okay, including Spencer. Did you check to actually see if he drove off? Did he circle back? Like, you have no idea what's going on. But this is your dumbass sitting over here doing this stuff in broad daylight on his turf, where if anything happens, he probably has more authority to physically remove you from the premises, especially because you're snooping without a warrant. So then she sees this other worker and he's like bringing some pails of water and some stuff like that. And so none of the workers on there speak English. They all speak Spanish. And so she's like, did you see some 2 girls? Una mujer and una niña, like, van trafficking. And he's like, listen, I just work here. I gotta go. And she studied accosting this man. And he's like, girl, I don't know nothing. I'm not saying nothing. Adios. Okay. So she leaves. So she's leaving and she's a little bit frustrated, but it is what it is. She's back home. She's getting ready to go out on her date, right? She's a little bit nervous. She hasn't done this in a while, but her roommate is encouraging. Here goes a little lipstick, girl. Let me give you some earrings. Let's tighten this up and cinch this at the waist, show that body because it's tea. When she gets a knock on the door and she's thinking it's her date. No, Budge is at her door and he's like, hola, I heard you were looking for me. And so she goes outside, right? First off, why she didn't ask him how he know her address? I don't know. But she goes outside and he was like, look, heard you wanted to talk. I'm here. I got some time before I got some business to tend to. So why don't you hop in my vehicle? We can head out. We can get something to eat. We could settle whatever it is you think is between us. And we could be on our merry little way. And so she's like, no, I'm going to drive in my car. And he was like, all right, bet, listen, because I got stuff to do. You came looking for me. I'm just coming to see like what it is. So she's hesitating. And then she gets in the car with this man. Don't text nobody. Don't tell nobody. Don't tell her roommate, who's also an agent at Border Patrol. Don't do nothing. She just gets in his car. Ma'am, are you fucking kidding me? I looked at the TV and I said, wow, you gotta be so dumb. You are so dumb, if y'all know where they come from. Because what the hell, Bernie? So she's in the car and she's clutching on her purse because her gun is in there. If you got to be doing all of this and you can't even pretend to be relaxed and pretend that this is not a situation where you suspect him, why are you even a cop? Like, poker face, nowhere to be found. Literally, she left it back at the house. So they go out somewhere. They eating dinner, and so she's like, I just wanted to clear things over. It seems like there was some bad energy and some bad tension between us when I was inspecting the vehicle. And he was like, listen, muchacha, you was just doing your job. Like, I'm not sensitive. We all got stuff to do. You got to check these things. I'm riding security because I got to make sure I'm protecting the driver, and I got to make sure that I'm protecting our product like it is what it is. Instantly. No finesse, no nothing. Did you put the gun back in my car? Did you take it? Why are you really there? And it's just like, girl, this is a hired security in a place that is secluded that he drove you to. Most likely some of the people in here also know who he is, also knows what he's capable of. And this is what you're doing in a place where they could kill you, bury you, and nobody will ever know where you went at all. Are you dense? Like, what the fuck? So he's laughing at her. He's like, baby girl, you're barking up the wrong tree. And ever so subtly, he's like, if you want to continue to bark, don't be afraid what you find when you get in these branches. But you know what? We've taken up enough of each other's time. I'm gonna head out. I take it you can find your way home. And it was the same line that Spencer told her when she was on his ranch, which tells me that he knew she was snooping around, and they left enough rope for her to hang herself and for them to watch her and see how far she was going to go down this rabbit hole into some one woman investigation against all of them. And it is very deep. And now here go your ass in some place. He done drove you there. You ain't got no car to get back home. And so she's like walking from the restaurant out to the gate. You got to take your heels off because it ain't nothing but rocks and sand and debris. And now your feet all charred up and shit because you walking back to this gate. And so she ended up calling her actual date to come pick her up at the location. So she goes out of the gate or whatever, and he's there picking her up. And he making fun of her. Rightfully so. But to me, I feel like a little bit more chastising should have happened because you could have gotten killed. And it's like her own mind and her own safety is nowhere in sight as she's pursuing these things, which brings me back to, is this arrogance and insolence? You feel like you're better than everybody that you work with? Like, what is your motivation behind this? It cannot be purely trying to focus on like, oh, I think a human trafficking thing is going on, because there's not enough evidence and not even enough people to corroborate your instincts. It was one woman and one daughter. And yes, it looked crazy. It looked suspect. But what else do you have to go on? You haven't looked into any information on previous cases. You haven't looked up any like suspicious activity from the past in the last 5 years. You're not doing any of that. You're just going head first into a situation based off a hunch on two people. Yeah, your gun mysteriously left and your gun mysteriously came back, but you're not gathering intel at all. And the people you work with, whether they're trying to cover it up and they're in on something, or whether they genuinely feel like Spencer is not doing anything, they're not on your side. So when are you going to actually call Chee and Leaphorn and try to at least get some people that you trust to help you out? Because right now, everybody that you work with is telling you to let it go, and you're not. And you literally could have died episode 3 or been severely injured, and then nobody was knowing where you were for like 2 episodes and you bleeding out somewhere. Like, this is the situation that you're putting yourself in, and you pissing me off, girl. You pissing me off. But who else is pissing me off? Leaphorn. So George is still missing. We have not found him. And at this point, it doesn't really seem like they think he's dead per se, but they are very like his life is in danger. Like something is going on. But they ended up getting a lead and finding the red truck at this like farm like culty thing. And so I didn't get their names. The woman who's like the mother or the chosen mother of this group, her name is Suzanne, and I cannot remember the man who's like the head of the ranch. So let's call him Mr. So Mr. is there, and Leaphorn and Chee are asking him questions, and he's grabbing Suzanne's hand and she's trying to answer some questions, but then they're looking like he's squeezing, kind of like coaching her and trying to make sure that he's steering the conversation in the way that he wants it to go, while like giving the illusion that she's answering of her own free will. But things are looking real suspicious, and Leaphorn and Chee don't really have much to go on, but they're like, we've seen this red truck, or we have witnesses who saw this red truck in two sightings. One where George and Ernesto initially disappeared, and then the second sighting was where they found Ernesto's body underneath the drain pipe. So it's like, I know y'all are lying. And y'all sitting over here trying to spin this story and say, oh, well, we all use the truck. It's communities, everything here, and we share everything. And, love and flowers and dust and rocks and trees and Navajo land. We're just here to, bring peace in our community. And, we don't want anything to do with the law. So they're like, okay, cool. We're going to circle back on this, but cool, we'll let y'all go right now. So Leaphorn ends up going back to the station, and at this point, they went straight from the cabin where Leaphorn got hurt back to this area. So they ended up running into Mr. and leading them to the ranch because he was like hiding out somewhere, and he ended up running, and like somebody who was there was like running and taking off. I can't even think. Oh my God. Let me say this. As they were leaving the cabin, this man saw them and started running and taking off. And that's how they got back to the farm where Mr. and the concubines and everybody else who lived there was there. Woo! My brain just scrambled literally live. Y'all are like watching this and listening to this live. I don't even know what happened. So they went straight there. So he didn't even get to tend to his cuts and bruises. So they go back to the station. He's trying to tend to his cuts and bruises when the FBI agent calls him in the house, and she was like, hey, so they found a body out up in this secluded space, and it's looking like it's B.J. Vines. So Leaphorn has been, stressed and had his stomach in his throat this entire time because he killed B.J. Vines. And they're trying to investigate how this guy, even though he's a known suspect and, wanted for murders and all these other things, when he got off on bail, ain't nobody seen him for 6 months. So Leaphorn is like, it could be anybody, why would a man who was missing for 6 months be found, da da da. And she was like, it's so funny. You should say that. Because the coroner says that it's looking like it's been out there for 6 months. So let's go for a ride, Joe. And he's like, listen, I got it. She's like, if you're a great lieutenant, then your people should be able to function without you. So patch yourself up and get your ass in this car. So they head out, and she's walking around and she's talking, and she's throwing out a little bit more hints that say, I know what you did last summer. Meanwhile, he's having hella hallucinations and shit, and like broad daylight and right there with other people. But at least this time, he's kind of prepared for them to come. So he doesn't have like a visceral reaction to where she would think something is wrong. And so she's just in her own world, and she's just like, we're going to figure out what's going on. Because I have a sneaking suspicion that his death was not an accident, and more so, I think that I know that I think that you had something to do with it. So in a roundabout way, there's a very hard accusation hurled in Leaphorn's direction, whether it's directly to him or whether it's directly to the department. So there is a choke hold around finding out what's going on with B.J. Vines in the middle of everything that's going on with this case and finding George and finding Ernesto's killer. So at this point, it's already announced on the radio and everything that B.J. Vines is suspected to have been found dead, buried in this open space on the Navajo lands. Well, Emma is at her parents' house and she's hearing this on the radio. And she like, Mom, I gotta go. So Leaphorn goes home and Emma is sitting in the middle of the living room in a chair waiting for Joe to bring his ass home. And she said, tell me that you did not. And he looks at her and he says, he killed our boy. And that's all she needed to know. And she's like, are you kidding me? Not only did you now mar the memory and the spirit of our child, because this decision that you made without me, without consulting me, was very selfish. You do not own the grief to our son. This was ours. And no matter how he died, we were supposed to put him to rest so that his spirit could go free. So not only did you mar his memory, you invited the spirit of this evil man into our home. And there, guys, is the answer to whatever the hell is going on with Leaphorn in these hallucinations. And I love that we finally got to get insight on what is actually happening and where this is come from, because it's almost like it came out of nowhere from the first episode. So it was like, what did he do? And I've been asking, what did he do? What did he say? And at first you really, I don't know, at least for me, maybe because I'm not indigenous and I'm not Navajo, I wasn't necessarily putting two and two together that the killing of BJ Vines, that his spirit would be the thing um that's haunting Leaphorn now. I just assumed that it was about the case, especially because of the names of the episodes. Big monster, big eyes, ghosts, and stuff like that. But for her to openly say, like, you invited this spirit into our house, it's because he knew that he killed in a malicious way. And so, and you're killing on these lands and you're doing something that's not sacred on sacred lands. And so it's like Leaphorn disrupted the energy and the spiritual calmness of the area in the land that he actually lives on. Then on top of that, you killed a murderer, somebody with an evil spirit, and now they are trapped here and trapped in you. And you live here, which means that I also am trapped with this evil thing. Y'all, Emma, divorce. I'm playing. But at the very least, go stay with your mama and your daddy, because Leaphorn is still not apologetic about it. And as she walks out angry, he's just like, I did what I had to do. I did what I had to do. And it's more like a chant, as if he's trying to convince himself that what he did was right. But his face shows so much anguish to the fact that he knows, especially because she spoke this thing out loud, he now knows that his hallucinations are of his own making. So there's that, kids. Dark Winds, Season 3, Episode 3, Chidi, which means ghost. We are 3 episodes in. We have 5 episodes left. 5 episodes left. Now, a part of me is like, maybe it's somebody like actually dressing up and haunting him and like kind of taking advantage of his lack of sleep, taking advantage of his guilt, right? Very Scooby-Doo like, no, there is a real monster here. Let's pull the mask off. But the other thing too is, willing to believe the spirituality of it all and the power of guilt and the power of the mind, even if it's not necessarily spirits per se. I love the word per se. Even if it's not spirits, it's still a manifestation of everything that's going on inside of Leaphorn. And the mind is so powerful. The mind can make you feel sick. The mind can make you think that you're pregnant. The mind can make you think so many other things if it is connected to a traumatic or a major life event. And Leaphorn is fairly like a stand-up guy, right? When we meet him, he's rooted in justice, he's rooted in fairness, he's rooted in truth and honesty. And he went and did something out of pure rage, and he didn't tell his own spouse, and he's living with this thing on the inside, and it is eating him alive. And now there's paranoia everywhere that he looks. You can't really eat, you can't really sleep, you're seeing things that aren't there, you're jumpy, you're skittish. And even with the FBI agent asking, logically, you know that there's nothing that she has to point to you, but your actions are giving her multiple legs to stand on to look into you and look into everyone else in that department. So your guilt is going to bring shame and eyes to everybody around you. And because they love you, they're going to want to protect you, which means they might end up going down for something that you did out of pure selfishness. Whoo, Joe, I would not want to be you. Whoo, but I am super excited to see what's going on in the coming weeks. I can't stress this enough. Bernie, if your ass don't tell people where you're going, I swear to God, I'm going to throw my TV out the window. I swear to God. She is getting on my nerves. On my nerves. And then another thing that happens in this episode, and I'm not going to tell y'all exactly because you need to go watch it. You need to go watch it on AMC Plus if you missed it. But there is something that happens at the end of this episode that literally collides the cases and potentially opens up the plot to season 4. Because if they don't get to this in this season, I can definitely see this plot being opened up for season 4. And so far in season 1 and season 2, they kind of like had this one thing that they were dealing with in each season, and it didn't really carry over into the next season. You just had a new case, new story, new things to solve. But in season 3, we do have a new case, a new story, and new things to solve. But something that they didn't do in the previous seasons is they're bringing the death and the murder of B.J. Vines from the previous season and threading all of these things that lead back to the death of his son from season 1. And now it's very pointed that they are keeping storylines through new stories within the season. And what was found by Chee in this episode can keep everything that's going on with Spencer Ranch into season 4, regardless of what's happening. And we might actually get to have like a 2-season arc of a case that is so big and connects Spencer Ranch. It connects the people that was found at this like cult farm, and it also connects the FBI. So definitely see the setup for more to come, and I'm really excited about that. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, go to AMC Plus and watch this episode, because I was just like, yo. And what this means is not only are they in danger, but Bernie's life is more in danger than she realizes. I love good television. But that's going to wrap up this episode, okay? As always, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave your comments in the comments box below, okay? For everybody that only likes to listen, that's in your life, or if you're on a road trip or whatever, go ahead and hit that Spotify link. Follow me there, as well as Apple Podcasts. You can also follow me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I'm posting about so many other things, and also posting some reels, as well as TikTok short form reviews and recaps. And you can find me on TikTok at Kiowa Chee, as well as Twitter under the same name at Kiowa Chee. And that's gonna be it, guys. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next episode.